So it's a crazy world out there right now, and there are a lot of reasons that you have as a musician to not feel like doing pretty much anything. But in this video, I'm going to share with you 5 tips to help you stay motivated and not let the current circumstances break your spirit. Hey, what's good? And welcome to Music Space, where we help working musicians just like you learn how to quickly and easily make a living with your craft. So if you're new here to the channel, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded. So how do we musicians stay motivated during these trying times? I mean, there's a pandemic going on that has directly affected your livelihood. Most of the restaurants, bars, clubs, and other venues that you would normally play are shut down or have greatly reduced their output as far as entertainment is concerned because they've been directly affected by the pandemic as well. And some churches have even shut down. So musicians who play at church who would normally have income coming from that are no longer receiving income. And even before the pandemic, trying to get venues and such to pay you your worth was like spitting teeth. The musician industry is saturated and there's not a whole lot of solidarity. And on top of all of that, there's things like depression and anxiety and low self-esteem that we musicians deal with that I discussed in a prior video, and I'll link that video above if you want to check it out. But in addition to, having all of the hard work of trying to hone our crafts and our skills just to be able to survive in our industry. And the longer these things persist and go on unchecked, the worse they become. So as a result, your engagement in your craft almost becomes non-existent. You become unproductive in other areas of your life, and you simply stop caring about important things like working hard to get better at what you do. But fortunately, it's not as hard to stay motivated as you may think. You just need to make sure you follow some simple strategies. So with that said, let's get into the 5 strategies that help you stay motivated. So the first tip is discover your why. Now, this is an idea that comes from Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. And the idea goes like this. As musicians, we all know what we do. We play music, we entertain people. It's simple. Some of us know, or at least have some idea of how we do what we do. You know how your band approaches music. You know how your band is different from another band, etc. But very few musicians and people in general know why they do what they do. And this is something extremely powerful because it becomes the foundation of what you do. Now, you may say that your why is to make money, but I'm not really talking about making money because making money is more of a result. What I mean by your why is like, what is your purpose? What is your belief? What is your cause? What is the thing that makes you keep doing what it is you do? And this doesn't have to be some deep esoteric purpose. It can be really simple, like, you just want to have fun. Or, you love providing entertainment for people because you believe entertainment heals the soul or heals, people's hearts or whatever the case may be. This is a cause and a purpose. And this is something that can serve as a foundation to drive you in those times where you don't feel like doing much or you feel unenthused or unmotivated. This why is your driving factor. So discover your why and keep that in the front of your mind and let that be your motivation tool. Now, before we go on to the next tips, if you're getting value out of this video so far, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because I'm on a mission to help 1 million musicians realize their goals and dreams, make more money, and gain the respect we all deserve as musicians. And I would really love for you to be one of them. So hit that subscribe button. Now, the next tip is don't be afraid to change. A lot of us are unmotivated simply because we're afraid to change. And what I mean by this is sometimes you look around and the musician industry has changed. It's evolved, it's adapted, and a lot of the things that it's evolved and adapted to are different from when you first started playing or being a musician, and you may not like some of those changes. So what happens is you complain a lot about them, you fuss at a lot about them and all of those kind of things instead of trying to adapt to those changes. And the cycle of doing this can be very unmotivating. And even down to things like how you're paid or the method in which you're paid, like Cash App and things like that, or how musicians, currently communicate with each other. These are things that have migrated and have evolved over time that you may not be familiar with. So what happens again is we kind of sit around and complain about those things and talk about the old days and how it wasn't this and how it used to be this, instead of looking at ways that we can adapt to this new reality. And those things can be unmotivating. And one of the ways you can avoid being unmotivated is to simply just embrace this new terrain and secure your spot on the field. Adapt and learn the newer methods. Get involved with some of the newer things that are going on that you may not be familiar with. But definitely don't allow yourself to get frustrated with things like this because it breeds unmotivation. Okay, so the next tip is recapture your start. And what I mean here is, remember when you first started playing? Remember the joy and excitement that you had just to get on your instrument or get on a microphone or whatever the case may be and just play or just sing? Remember what that felt like? Remember that sense of awe you had when you learned a really cool chord progression for the first time, or a note or a riff or run? What you have to do is take some time to live in that moment again. Actually feel those feelings. You're not doing this to live in the past or some alternate reality or some dream world or anything like that. You're simply doing this to remind yourself of how things can be. Reliving and reminding yourself of that awe and that excitement and that sheer bliss of when you first started playing can be extremely motivating. So it's not that complicated. I mean, you don't have to become a monk, take up yoga, or start meditating or anything like that to accomplish this. Just regularly remind yourself of these things so that it motivates you to move forward. Now, the next tip is you have to tailor your expectations. Now, this is sort of in line with one of the previous tips of being afraid to change, but what I more so mean here is how you do things. I'm talking about sort of rearranging and recalibrating your direction. Like, some musicians are literally still expecting scouts and producers to show up at restaurants and clubs that they play at and offer them a recording deal. Some musicians expect that when they play a great show that potential clients should just be blowing up their phones. And these sorts of expectations simply don't line up with the new reality that we live in. And it's these sorts of expectations that can be really demotivating. I mean, if you're expecting a scout to show up at a club you're playing at and that consistently doesn't happen, or if you're expecting to get phone calls from potential clients that, you did a show for them or something and it was great and you want them to call you and that consistently doesn't happen, it can be really demotivating. But the issue is not that those things are not happening, it's that the expectation for them to happen is sort of unrealistic in the world that we live in. So what you need to do is tweak your expectations and your goals and your plans so that you get to the next level. And this includes all of the sorts of expectations that I just mentioned, but it also goes into some of the smaller expectations and the smaller methods and ways that you do things. So, for example, how you put your set list together. Maybe instead of putting mostly songs on your set list that you enjoy playing and that you like to play and that are great songs to you, put yourself in the minds of your potential clients and the events that you're playing for. What's good music for those type of things? What's the type of music that those people would enjoy and listen to? And this is the sort of tailoring and adjusting that I'm talking about here. Adjust those expectations so that you don't get demotivated when those things don't go your way. Now, another tip is this. You have to act despite being unmotivated. Now, this idea comes from a book by Mel Robbins called The 5-Second Rule. And the basic idea is this. You are rarely going to feel motivated to do anything. So being motivated is really sort of overrated and oversold. It's touted as this key factor in getting things done. And while it does have its place, motivation is nothing that you can really depend on, especially for any extended period of time. And the other thing is that motivation is sort of preached in this order that isn't always true. It's like first you're motivated and then you take action. The truth is, though, that in most cases, it's action that comes first and then the motivation follows. So, for example, getting in shape. It's very rare that you're going to feel motivated to get up and go to the gym or get up and exercise, go outside for a run, eat the right foods, eat all of the healthy foods and things like that. It's very rare that you're going to feel like that. But guess what? If you take action despite feeling motivated and you go to the gym and you start eating right and you do all of those things and you start seeing those results, you start seeing those biceps come in, those six-pack abs come in, I'm telling you, that's a motivation for you right there. So the action happens and then the motivation comes. So there are some things that you're simply just going to have to take action on. You won't necessarily feel motivated. You won't have a great reason to do so. Things aren't going to be lined up perfectly to make it happen. And the outlook of things may look very bleak, but you're going to have to take action despite those things. So look, I know things aren't exactly great for us musicians right now, but things will get better. And I truly believe that things will be a whole lot better than they were before this whole pandemic and all of this stuff even happened. So just make sure you're applying these tips in the meantime to help you stay motivated. And listen, jump down in the comment section and share your tips for staying motivated. Also, again, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.